Exploring the Deep Web by Dan Downs. Before we start, it's important to ask ourselves, just what is the Deep Web? And to start off, we look at the Wikipedia definition, which is arguably one of the best for helping you define what the Deep Web is. Wikipedia says that the Deep Web is World Wide Web content that is not part of the surface web, that which is indexed by standard search engines. So, does this mean that the Toulouse Forum is part of the Deep Web? Most definitely. But there's also much more to it than that. Here, we have an image of the red pill and the blue pill from the Matrix. Take the red pill, and you will find out much. But with the blue pill, well, you'll be relegated to a world where it's better off, maybe, not knowing exactly what's out there. So, let's begin. Let's come to an understanding of what the Deep Web really is. Here, we have a visual representation of the internet, and we can see, through this complicated tree chart, just how interconnected the internet really is. The first thing to really understand about the Deep Web is that most of the internet is actually part of the Deep Web. This may be hard to comprehend at first. To be part of the Deep Web, a website must meet at least one of the following criteria. First, it cannot be indexed due to countermeasures. That means it just doesn't show up on Google. 2, it has no outside links, and because it has no outside links, other websites can't connect to it. 3, it could have a password. Or 4, it could be a directory or a subdirectory of a database, and therefore inaccessible. If it has scripted content, like JavaScript and Flash, then a website like Google cannot understand what's on the page. Or, if it's non-HTML content, like a PDF or an image, it can also not appear. Now, we examine just how large the Deep Web really is. And frankly, we don't know the answer. However, we do have a few estimates. According to the website worldwidewebsize.com, the current surface internet has 14.6 billion pages. However, academic studies in the area are largely lacking, with the last meta-analysis of data taking place back in 2003. What we do know is that the Deep Web, even to this day, is far larger than the surface internet. Let's look at the Berkeley study of 2003. The University of California, Berkeley study of 2003 found the following information. First, it determined that the surface web had 167 terabytes of data. This, however, was nothing compared to the almost 92,000 terabytes of deep web data. This, of course, does not include emails and IMs, which is part of the Deep Web, as it can't be searched by most search engines. Please note that it only sampled 580 million people, or about 30% of America at that time. Today, over 80% of America has internet. The UC Berkeley study, conducted in 2003 using data compiled in the late 90s and early 2000s, found that NASA had over 585 terabytes of deep web data, much of this being in databases that were largely not indexed by internet search engines. Another study, also conducted in the year 2000, suggested that the web at the time only had 7,500 terabytes of total data, with the top 60 largest websites having 750 terabytes combined, or about 10% of the deep web at that time. However, this data was found to be largely faulty, but goes to show just how difficult it is to really gauge the entire size of the internet. Today, we do not know how large the deep web, or, for that matter, the internet as a whole, really is. Problems with measuring the internet largely derive from what is known as the eternal September phenomenon. Eternal September refers to a specific event that occurred on the Usenet service back in September of 1997. Due to outside influence caused by America Online, Usenet found itself inundated with new users, and, ever since, has continually found their website to be compromised as a social entity because new people keep coming in. The web today is very much the same, with millions upon millions of people joining the internet each year and using it for the first time, not aware of the etiquette that has largely evolved in the past 2 to 3 decades of World Wide Web usage. And so, this photo, taken also from the Matrix, does well to illustrate what the deep web really is if we could see it. It's just data, well, for the most part. So, we look at what is exactly on the deep web. The vast majority of the deep web is actually made up of free-floating web directory data or government-released data. NASA, for example, has literally hundreds upon thousands of terabytes of raw data from their scientific missions available to the internet. The Library of Congress has thousands of terabytes of historical data that's largely used only by historians when doing research. Private websites without links are also apparent on the deep web. These 90s era web pages, like, for example, GeoCities, exist almost as a bubble, existent on the internet and yet not connected to other websites. Free-floating web directory data also exists. All of this background information that allows websites that are part of the surface internet to run can be freely accessed, but usually isn't because it's not optimized for human use. Private online communities, like, for example, the Toulouse Forum, are also part of the deep web, as you cannot access them without a password, and as such, they cannot be used by those who do not know about the site. There are many more deep web facts. Private academic databases make up a large part of the deep web, but not as large as one can imagine. It's likely that most of this data in the academic databases is not optimized for human use. Database researchers themselves have great trouble sifting through this large amount of data, not to mention the difficulty the average layman would find when trying to search for specific items within this large, unorganized mass. Notably, only a very, very small fraction of the deep web is used by criminal elements. The vast majority of the deep web is just raw data. For most, the deep web is primarily and completely just useless information, about as useful as the lorem ipsum text. It should be noted, however, that like anything else, the deep web has a dark underbelly. Upwards of 90% of the deep web is freely accessible. The deep web is largely as benign as an old-class photo. For example, we have here a picture of Toulouse's Fall 2007 globalization class at Pratt. As it is part of a private website, it is indeed a part of the deep web as a whole. Let us explore the darkest corners of the internet. Dark corners. Known widely as the darknet, this area is not for the foolhardy. Before we continue, I would suggest that you don't try to imitate my behavior here, and go off and explore the areas of the darknet alone. Danger abounds, and by exploring the darknet unprepared, you pose great risk to both yourself and especially to your computer system. I would not suggest you guys try this on your own. The darknet is an interesting cast of characters from all walks of life. For every drug dealer and human trafficker you encounter, you have the occasional renegade scientist, the free speech advocate, and the political revolutionary, he who hopes to overthrow some government somewhere. Professional and amateur criminality both provide great dangers to you, although the occasional mentally disturbed individual who does have some minor overlap with the previous categories does exist out there. All these groups can make your life very, very difficult, and as such, the darknet isn't a place to visit regularly. And so, we shall examine the criminality that is found on the darknet. First, we face the amateurs. Pleasure hackers are those who, generally not meaning to destroy a computer, will do things if only to exhibit their own prowess and to practice their skill. They may take over your webcam or remotely access your desktop. This, however, does not mean that these pleasure hackers are not a danger. Script kiddies are those individuals who seek the same ends as pleasure hackers, but do so without technical prowess. Rather, script kiddies use programs in order to achieve their ends. Using the work of others, script kiddies can achieve many things that pleasure hackers do, but individually are much less dangerous, as script kiddies do not have the requisite knowledge necessary for true hacking. The most common amateur darknet user is undoubtedly the copyright infringer. This individual, one who desires to gain media, such as movies, music, or books, through software piracy, is often found on such sites, as the darknet is a haven for goods that are stolen, or, in most cases, copied without permission. Largely overlapping into the copyright infringers group, you have the occasional bored teenager looking for such books as The Anarchist Cookbook, which is, by many government standards, considered to be banned literature. Here, we have an example of ebook piracy. This is a picture from a website that pirates ebooks. It is part of the darknet, and in fact, part of a larger organization that does professional copyright infringement. On the darknet, there are many professional ne'er-do-wells. First, we have the entire category of professional hackers, phreakers, phishers, spammers, and botnet operators. Professional hackers are known to the public at large, while their cousins are less popular. Spammers are those who contribute to that junk mail found in your email inbox and are largely responsible for stealing the personal data of individuals. Phishers are those individuals who, like spammers, use email in order to steal your personal data and, at the end of the day, aim solely to take all the money out of your bank account or use your name for illicit and illegal opportunities. Botnet operators are those individuals who operate large groups of computers all together in one system for use either in spamming individuals or stealing credit card numbers. Possibly the most interesting of the bunch, phreakers are the oldest group of categories, predating the internet itself. Phreakers are those individuals who use the telephone system in order to cause misery in your life, such as remotely shutting down your internet access by a phone call to the telephone company. Here, we have the example of a website found in the darknet. In particular, this website is designed to cater to those who wish to buy drugs online. Notice the prices are not listed in dollars, but instead use bitcoins. Conclusion: the internet, like any other place, has its collections of strange individuals, and while it's mostly mundane and benign, there are those places that are best avoided. I hope that you guys have found this presentation most interesting and had gained as much insight as I gained pleasure in creating such a thing. I am Dan Downs, and this has been Exploring the Deep Web. Thank you.